Awesome, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Mike here from Ojurasoft, Settling. And this evening, we're going to be talking about costly mistakes that you should avoid when planning to relocate, when planning to migrate. As always, I'm here with my co host from Nigeria, Michael, who is, as always, we're going to lead the conversation this evening. Before we proceed, I'd like Mike say a few words and then we get into the gist for this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Japa. It's a pleasure to be on this show with you. And today we're talking about costly migration mistakes that people make and why you should do everything possible to avoid them. So I'm happy to be on the show with you today.
Awesome.
So Mike, now talking about costly mistakes, migration mistakes that people make. When you ask the right questions, you avoid the wrong experiences. And now,
True.
it's one thing to ask the right question. Is another thing to be asking the right person the right question because you could get the
100%.
wrong answer to the right question. So now we have a lot of people providing agent services and migration support services and all that. What would you advise someone like who wants to move? What are the key things that you need to do? And sometimes people want to look at it like maybe asking the right professionals might be expensive. They want to go for cheaper option, and at the end they land themselves in institutions that are not quite
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
right. So, what is your advice for like a Mr. A or Mrs. B who plans to migrate to Europe but
Mm-hmm.
needs some guidance on how to get
Yeah.
there?
So the first and foremost thing is uh, people should understand the value of what they are doing. And when you understand the value of it, you also give in the necessary time. I always recommend that regardless of who you decide to work with to assist you or support you in any way, you also need to know exactly what they are doing. Give me a second. Let me close my door. Good. So I'm like, regardless of who you contract to help you, you also need to know exactly what they are doing. Because at the end of the day, the person who takes what it's about your life, so to speak, right? So if you don't understand what they're doing, they will just do whatever they think it's right for you. But at the end of the day, it's you who has to then face or live that life. So the first and foremost thing is have not just the basic, but have a thorough understanding of what is being done. And we face this every time. I mean, we also provide relocation services to people. And then you find someone, for example, they come with a really low grade, and then they are insisting for a master's degree study program, for example. But we know that there is the minimum, say, grade requirement to certain schools, especially public universities. But then the guy is telling you, I want the best school in Europe. I want the best school. Like, what are you talking about? You want the best, but you don't have the requirement. So just that basic knowledge, for example, tells you how the deep misunderstanding that people have. And now for such a person, if they're working with someone who's not honest, they say, yes, I'll get you the best school, don't worry. And at the end of the day, they are fully disappointed. Only later for the agent or whoever to tell them that, oh, but you don't have this, you don't have this. And I think this is one place I'm also having a challenge because I expect a lot of the people I come in contact with to know these things, but they don't know these things, right? And then I'm like, why don't you know this thing? This, in as much as someone is going to help you, you still need to do your due diligence and just have the basic understanding of it. What I gave was just a simple example, but it goes beyond that. So I guess the key thing is do not jump onto it because other people are doing. Do not rely on what other people say because your situation, your profile, the destination you're going to, your vision, your dream, your expectations, they are not the same. So why would you now just jump onto something because somebody has told you that? Do you get what I'm saying?
There's something I appreciate so much about you. This is not to flatter you. You are very real. I mean, very factual, very realistic. You don't like to sugarcoat any of this fact, and I think that helps a lot. Now, um, when it comes to migration, I think there's something people get wrong. It's all
Yeah.
about maybe like the push to get the visa approved.
Mm-hmm.
As again, getting the details of making this visa worthwhile for yourself. So
Yeah.
when you put this together side by side, what do you think people should actually concentrate on? Is it these details of what is needed, how best to settle in, and when in case you make the you succeed with a visa, how best to settle in, all the details of what you are going to do and all that. What is most important? Because I think the whole conversation seems to be fixated or focused on getting a visa. So and in the process, after getting the visa, people appear to get stranded. So could you please
Yeah.
put this into proper perspective?
Yeah. Sadly, with the way things are right now, most people just want to jackpot. You know, it's like I don't care what's happening. Let me land there and then I figure it out. But looking at things from where I am today and just looking back, I'd be like, bro, sis, you will jackpot, but then you will dakpada. It's like you will go back. Why? Because you realize in the short time that, hey, was this all worth it? Really? But I know the pressure right now. It's like anything other than this is better. I give an example. My one of my brother-in-law and the wife, they returned to Nigeria a couple of months ago, and then the husband couldn't stay very long. He came back again to Europe, but the wife said no, she's not coming. She just want to stay back. She's gonna visit and stuff. And then, Feli and I were talking, and I'm like, I actually see myself, like my aunt, who just goes back and doesn't want to come back again because it's like there is a way you can live in Nigeria or wherever. And trust me, you don't need Europe. You know, you don't need Europe because you have your peace, have a big house, good weather. Of course, there are some other downside, but there is a kind of living conditions that you have that you don't need Europe. And if you find a way to come to Europe, then the question is, how is the condition of your living going to be different? You have to know these things. Again, this is like high level conversation, which is not really what a lot of people think about. And I think that's one problem that I have. I'm always picturing these things at super high level, but it's really because of where I stand and where I see things from, you know? But honestly, if people would begin to think more high level, and high level means you're not just looking at getting the visa. Honestly, the visa is simply the beginning of your problem. I swear. Why? Because if your focus is just getting the visa, then you arrive here, bro, you'll be frustrated if you don't understand what you're doing. I'm not saying this for to scare anyone, but I'm saying this that you understand the truth because the visa is only the first step. It's more like the gate to A, your problem, or your solution. But if it's going to be a problem or solution, it really depends on the bigger picture that you have for yourself, you know? Because imagine it, you don't think about what opportunities are there for you. Will the language be an issue? What job do you plan to do? What is your profile? How are you going to integrate? What is the path to becoming a permanent resident or a citizen? There are a lot of unanswered questions. Again, you don't need to have the answers, but my point is do not rush it. If you find someone who is trying to, explain to you and calm you down and say, take your time, please pay attention to them. Because tack, 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 you get the visa, you get the flight, you will land here. And then what next? It's not the solution. Europe is definitely not the solution. The solution is your preparation. The solution is your strategy. The solution is having the big picture. The solution is what do you want for yourself?
All right. So now, from what you're saying is your understanding of what you want for yourself is key to your succeeding or failing after your migration.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
All right. Now, after knowing what you want for yourself, would you because you've always advised on this platform that you can still move to Europe without necessarily going through an agent. And I think we once talked about on this very show, this podcast, that sometimes somebody who is in Nigeria, who is in Ghana, who is in Kenya, who has never traveled to Europe is showing you the way to Europe. I don't know, does that really make sense?
It doesn't, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that people have to avoid. you know you have to learn and do these things from people who have the experience, who are there, who are living it. And that is really where it gets tricky. And this is also something I've come to realize with all everything which we're building around the migration space. You couldn't find one person that is going to provide a solution to everything. Now, this podcast, which we bring here every weekend, is brought to the viewers by Settling. And this is one of the solutions that we are creating, to solve the problems that we see. And we genuinely believe that the first and foremost solution is personalized information, personalized suggestions. Because again, what works for Paul will not work for John or work for David. No. So Paul needs to understand as much as possible the experience of someone with a similar profile. And now my point is this: someone who hasn't been here before, they have limited information, if at all they have any correct information, right? And even someone who is living here, they can only, if they are a service provider, they will provide you service and information within the scope of what they know. The key thing is this: it's not to say, hey, you wouldn't find a trustworthy person, but the key thing is this: who is providing that service? Where are they based? Have you done the background check in their company? One of the features which we are bringing on Settling soon is service providers. And what Settling is going to do is Settling is going to take care of the verification of that service provider. If you say you provide service to help relocation to country ABC, you have to show proof for that, right? So even you may reside in another country, but we need to have evidence that you truly can provide services for people who want to relocate from point A to point B, right? So that feature is going to come soon on Settling. But until then, people, before you take up, the services of an agency or whoever, you need to do your own background check and like have a realistic expectation. We also work with agencies, right? Because we are like the bigger service provider over here, and then working with other agencies from different parts of Africa and stuff. So even with agencies at the B2B level, sometimes the expectations are even misunderstood. An agency is working with you, and clearly the scope of service is secure admission to study in the public tuition-free universities. This is clearly the scope of service. But then you know that with the admission, you cannot just fly to Europe or Germany. You now need a student visa. And then during the student visa application, they probably would ask you for accommodation. And now the agent comes back and is asking us for all this stuff. Yes, we're happy to provide them, but it's important to understand the scope of the service which we render to you. And sometimes the people are impatient. When you tell them these things, they feel like it's too much because they feel like, oh, you're going to charge them more. Yes, we will charge you because it takes time to provide these things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm getting you. I'm getting
So,
you.
yeah, the key point is this: that person that you're working with, that you also do a background check on them. And then beyond that, please do not have an unrealistic expectation. If you pay them for service within the scope of A, that's what you should expect. If they provide something outside it, fine, but they are not obligated in any way to do that, and that's why you should always have a service order agreement or whatever type of contract to define what is going to be offered to you before you make that payment, right? So you verify the agencies before you make payment. You have a bit of contract or service agreement, so I am paying you X thousand whatever, and you're going to deliver ABC for me. So once those are delivered, fine. Because before you know it, the sad thing is, yes, there are dubious agencies, no doubt. But there are a lot of also good agencies too that are providing services. But the problem is on the other side, the misunderstanding. You paid for AB. Are you expecting them to do A, B, C, D, E, F? No, cannot work that way. And before you know it, they are calling, they are texting. How many people can you answer their text messages in a day? you know and then if before you know it, then the words go out, oh, they duped me, they did this and that. But really check yourself. you know so it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Okay, so you just mentioned something, managing expectation and knowing what to expect. Because like most time, a friend was telling a story sometime. Like in Nigeria, where you pass an exam, oh, I did well. Where you fail an exam, they failed me. You
Hmm.
know, the case of I failed or they failed me or I failed. Because most times when an agent when a client comes to you for support, perhaps they don't have all the requisite requirements for the process to be successful. Now you provide your services, and at the end it's not successful, and maybe it ends up as this person duped me or they scammed me. Could that be a case of I failed my wife or they failed me. Do you think what the context?
Uh-huh. It's similar, right? Because it goes both ways. Yeah. So whereas you're saying they failed me, the other person is saying you failed. It's still the same thing, you know. And I guess
Yeah.
here that is really where the management of expectations comes in, but also like just doing things in a really really formal way and not having, I don't know, over WhatsApp conversations or whatever platform without any verification, documentation, agreement, because at the end of the day you need to hold somebody responsible and you need to show evidence for why you are holding them responsible. Otherwise it's just baseless accusations, on both sides.
Yes. Now, I recently came across an agent or maybe like a firm that is providing migration services. And then he said, okay, like to start with, you have to pay your maybe like it starts from the consultation stage. And I feel most of these very useful stages are what people consider like waste of resources or whatever. They just want
Hmm.
to get into the matter of how can we discuss visa. People, I mean, they want to jump these stages. And I want to, how important is consultation before in your planning? I mean, while you are planning your migration, how important is the consultation stage? Because why would you say it starts with a consultation? Can you help us make sense of that?
100%. I wish I could get my colleague, our admission and recruitment officer, onto this call, but he's someone who doesn't like to show his face in public. This is the key of our strategy, how we work. Before we invoice anybody for whatsoever thing, after we've qualified the lead, like, okay, yes, this one is serious, because as you can imagine, we get a pull of leads from different sources and we could not speak with all of them. But once we have done the qualification, we know, yes, this one is serious. They want to take up the service. Before anything, we offer consultation, the free consultation, no obligation, no binding, nothing. And in that consultation, my colleague is telling you exactly what we're going to deliver and what we need from you. Again, because if you pay us and you don't provide the necessary documents, there's no way it's going to work out. And if you pay us and you provide, say, incomplete documentations, or you provide documents that do not meet the minimum criteria, it won't work. So we always have that consultation. At least it goes for 30 to 45 minutes, free of charge, non-binding, nothing. And that is to tell you clearly, hey, John, we're happy you want to use our service. This is how we work. This is what we can do for you. These are our limitations. This is, when you pay this amount, this is what you're going to get. This and that you won't get from us. We can guide you on getting this and this and that. So after this consultation, I'm telling you how we work. After this consultation, an email is sent, and that email gives a recap of everything. And then you confirm it again that yes, you confirm, you understand. And it's only after then that we invoice. And even when we invoice, we're not charging you the whole amount. No, you're paying progressively. Why? Because we also want you to feel comfortable. We want you to know that, hey, you're not paying 100% and then someone disappears, right? So you also pay in installments. As we achieve different milestones, you're completing your payments. And it just works okay for everyone. But we could only know this after several years of experience because we had so many mistakes, right? But in the last 3 to 4 years, before anything, consultation, this is what we can deliver. We need this and this document. Any questions, we answer your questions. Follow up email, we recap, you confirm, you get the invoice, boom, then we proceed.
Okay, so but what you're saying sounds like a very well structured process, which is quite transparent, and then it can be tracked or traced. It's not something that's
100%.
like opaque, not yeah, that you can't really see through properly. It's something you can see through very clearly, crystal
Yep.
clear. Yeah, process.
Yep.
Now,
Mm.
you mentioned settling initially. Well, at the early stage of this meeting today. So now, for someone who is planning to migrate to Europe, do you think that the settling platform, which I think you once mentioned that is already on the Play Store, do you think it's
That's
a
correct.
platform that can be of help? Like if you go on settling, it can help give you a certain level of guidance and direction that would help you to make very minimal mistakes in your migration journey.
100%. I mean, this is the whole essence of us developing settling. Why? Because we discovered that the same target audience that we're looking for, we have to look for them across multiple media platforms. And the same service providers that we also want to work with, we also have to look for them across multiple media platforms. It didn't make sense to us. So we saw the gap to have a platform that is essentially focused on migration. If you want to study abroad, you want to work abroad, you want to have vocational training, whatever it is that's going to take you to the other side of the world, there is a platform that focuses on that. At the moment, as of today, 65% of the users are mostly people who want to study or work abroad. But then we still keep seeing people with other intentions or other ways of moving abroad. The goal of settling is that information gap and you being able to do it yourself. And even if you don't want to do it yourself, then at least you can inform yourself properly. And beyond that, that you can also connect with someone who is in the country where you hope to be, someone with a similar profile, so you can learn with them. So it's just like having a buddy who is somewhere that you want to go to, so you can speak with them. So you're not relying on the conversation from some strangers or some random person on TikTok, on Instagram, or wherever, but that you're having a conversation with someone who has been through what you are looking forward to going through, right? So settling solves this problem. It closes that information gap because now with the integration of the settling, excuse me, with the integration of the settling AI, when you're onboarding, it personalizes your profile. And what that means is, as you're onboarding onto the platform, you fill in some details about yourself, and this helps to narrow down the information which you receive, the type of content that you see, the service providers that are suggested to you, right? So again, at the end of the day, you have this information. Now it's up to you to use them. If you feel like using the service of a service provider, you can do that because they have the advantage of saving you a lot of time and some possible mistakes because of experience, right? But before anything, you're well informed. You've chatted with people who are there where you want to go, and you know exactly what you want to do.
All right. So what you're saying here is quite sounding really interesting now because you're saying, well, the Ojuresoft and or settling does not provide all the services across the different destinations that people travel to. However, there's also a platform called Settling, which works like maybe like LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, but this one is really specifically focused for people who are planning their migration. It's a migration space where you get very useful information on migration. So and then in this space you also have like other service providers or who can be accessed. It's like a meeting point, a community of people, migrants, and my service providers on migration. So, are
Yeah,
you saying
yeah,
that some of these people have already been censored, by background checks have been done, and
yeah.
they are still bringing more people into this space?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah,
And also
because
in this space, we also have other people who are already living in these destinations that you plan to move to. Questions can be asked and answers can be gotten real time.
that's correct. That's correct. So it's essentially bringing everybody closer, right? So that you don't have to go across multiple platforms looking for the same information or the same target audience. But on Settling, you get the information, you connect with the same target audience, service providers, and you just have a focused interaction. Imagine someone who is checking out information on how to undergo vocational training in Germany and they're on TikTok. Well, you will find that video about vocational training, but you find 100 videos about other completely unrelated topic, and before you know it, you're just going deep, 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 and then you're lost. But then being somewhere that you have like a focused conversation around that topic, which you're genuinely interested in, and given also how valuable and important this is, because it's a major life decision. You know, it just helps you avoid these costly mistakes. Yeah.
Wow. So I think this, for what you're saying, this works more like a LinkedIn because it's more like a professional platform for migration and service providers on migration and migrants and all that. So there are no more distractions like you're just reading on this one and then there's another ad that pops up, another, but
Yeah,
everything is migration centered. This is
that's
a very
correct.
wonderful idea, Mike.
That's correct. You just have to select your category, understanding that there are different routes to migrate, right? Your category, your profile, your destination, and then you just focus on that, because it's this because of the pool of information out there, it just drives people crazy. I mean, even with AI, you ask GPT one question and it gives you 1,000 answers, and then you're just confused, you know. So the goal here is to help people make decision really fast. You make decision fast, but you also make the decision well informed. You're not just jumping and making random decisions, but you don't have to, I don't know, read 100 posts before you know what you want to do. But your profile is already scanned, personalized, and then you know exactly where you're going to. Yeah,
So now, but because at the beginning of this show today, I did mention that yes, if you ask the right questions, you avoid some costly mistakes that could cost you a lot of sleepless nights. And
yeah,
also another way to that, and I also mentioned that is one thing to ask the right question, and it's another thing to be asking the right person the right question.
100%. I can't hear you again.
Mm.
Ah, now I can hear you. Now you're back.
Okay, there was a slight discussion. So I was saying now, it's possible to ask the right question and still get the wrong answer because you're asking the wrong person. So, but now, from what you've said here so far, you've provided a platform where the right questions can be asked and the right answers can be gotten.
That's
You've also
correct. From the
provided
right people
options
too.
where because you have the right people in the right space.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, you've also mentioned because you provided alternatives. If you think that the services that Ojira Soft is providing, maybe if it's expensive from your own assessment, you can equally use Assess the Settling platform and get this. But the difference here it's not going to be a case specific kind of support because and no one is going to really run it for you. But again, you still get the level of help that will help you make minimal mistakes or as much as possible reduce the chances of making mistakes. Am I correct
Hmm.
with that?
Yeah, I mean, so what we discovered is, of course, we couldn't serve, every target audience or their target location. We also have limitations in the scope of our service, right? And this is what we experienced over the years. But then, beyond that, the challenge which we faced. Can you be quiet? I have my little assistant here. But the challenges which we faced over the years, we felt the need to build a solution for that. So, of course, it's except us from within, you would not know that it's still the same organization that is behind Ujira Soft and Settling, right? So the goal, the vision here is it goes even beyond the services that Ujira Soft offers. The vision here is to see that migration becomes something which is more sustainable, and sustainable in the sense that it becomes easier to make decisions fast, costly mistakes are avoided. The key stakeholders within the migration space, they are brought together because, again, like we've always been saying, migration is not relocation, right? It's really deeper than most people think. It goes beyond just the visa. So we're looking beyond just providing service. And we think having a platform that brings all key stakeholders within the migration space together is very vital because then it helps to solve both the downstream and the upstream problems that are faced. And this is how we can make migration more sustainable. And this is how there will not be any conversation that talks about brain drain, brain gain, or whatever. Why? Because the world truly becomes a global village. If you the whole crap of Nigerians wanting to get visa to come to Germany and they have to wait 1 year, 2 years.
Okay,
It's
so
bullshit. Yeah, I lost you for a second. Hmm. Yeah, but maybe just to add to that point, so for us the vision is actually way bigger, right? It's seeing that migration truly becomes sustainable, and this we're building from the experience that we have faced, what we've seen, and we genuinely believe that yes, everyone can actually access opportunities on the other side of the world, and this has been going on for the longest time. What we're doing is not, it's not it's nothing which is not there before. We're simply putting the better structure to what is completely fragmented. The migration space is fragmented, and this, plus of course other things, is what leads to all the costly mistakes that people make.
all right, hello, are you there? Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hi, Mike.
I can hear you. Good. Well, I guess we're going to be rounding up now. Sadly, my dear colleague from Nigeria is now having some network issues. But the key thing that we wanted to pass across in this episode is understanding that the costly mistakes that people make during migration, it goes both ways. On one hand, of course, the type of service provider that you may work with, but on the other hand, and to a large extent, on your part as well. So you are encouraged to do your own background check, do your own due diligence, do your own research, or whatever it is that you have to do. But keep in mind that you should not jump onto a particular solution or something simply because uh, it worked for someone else, because you do not necessarily have the same profile, right? But again, if you're not on Settling, I do encourage you to check out the platform, sign up on Settling, and begin to inform yourself about the destination you want to go to. Ask relevant questions, you get answers to them, and then you inform yourself completely before making that decision. So, I will bring it to an end for this evening. If this is your first time here, I do encourage you to check out our different media platforms. Um, our newsletter is going to be coming up soon. Watch out for a post about that by next week from all our major media handles and my personal media handle as well, so that you can be subscribed to receive at least once per week, confirmed information about migration, relocation, and what's happening out here. I wish you all a nice weekend. Enjoy the weather. I hope it's nice where you are. And see you around soon.